Welcome to The Explainer. So let's just dive right into an incredibly fascinating concept that is going to completely change how we view bad habits and behavioral addictions. If you've ever felt totally trapped by a routine you desperately want to break, whether that's endlessly scrolling through short-form videos, way too late into the night, impulsively online shopping, or just constantly reaching for sugary snacks when you're stressed, this explainer is an absolute game changer. Today, we're talking about the nothing rule and how to effectively rewire your dopamine baseline so you can finally break free from those exhausting loops.
So why does breaking a bad habit actually hurt? I mean, if you've ever struggled with excessive screen time or mindlessly eating junk food, you totally know that hopeless feeling of trying to stop. You tell yourself, okay, I'm just going to put the phone down, or I'm not eating the cake. But literally almost immediately, your brain just starts fighting you. And it's not just a passing thought, right? It's a deep, visceral urge. Why does walking away from a simple everyday habit actually feel like genuine, paralyzing pain? What is going on in your brain that makes resisting so incredibly agonizing?
Well, here's our path forward today. We'll start with the pain of growth. Then look at the dopamine crash, walk through the exact steps of the nothing rule, explore building healthier alternatives, and finally wrap up with the 10-minute trick. All right, let's jump straight into section 1, the pain of growth, muscle versus mind. To really understand our mental habits, let's look at a physical experience we all intuitively get, a super intense workout at the gym, where you push your body to its absolute limits. Now, a heavy physical workout causes intense muscle soreness, right? The next day, you might barely be able to walk up a flight of stairs. But you don't panic, because you understand that this soreness means your body is actually rebuilding stronger. Well, a mental detox works exactly the same way. It causes dopamine withdrawal, which is literally the mental equivalent of muscle soreness. It means your baseline is actively healing. If you woke up incredibly sore after your first leg day, you'd welcome the pain because you know it means growth. And that is exactly how you should start viewing the mental pain, the frustration, and the intense boredom of breaking a behavioral addiction. Moving right along to section 2, the dopamine crash, below the baseline.
Before we go any further, we absolutely need to nail down a vital definition, your dopamine baseline. This is the normal starting level of dopamine in the brain that allows you to easily find motivation and pleasure in just everyday life. You can think of it as your brain's natural, healthy state before you introduce massive, artificial spikes of stimulation. See, when your baseline is healthy, simple, everyday things naturally feel rewarding. Going for a quiet walk, finishing a load of laundry, eating a regular piece of fruit, or just having a calm conversation with a friend. These activities feel genuinely satisfying. You don't need explosions of excitement just to feel okay. Your baseline provides a nice, steady hum of motivation.
But here's what happens. When you indulge in highly pleasurable activities, like playing fast-paced video games for hours, doom scrolling through thousands of algorithm-optimized videos, or eating highly processed sugary foods, your dopamine spikes massively above that healthy baseline. And sure, you feel incredible in the moment, but here is the brutal catch. When you finally stop, your dopamine doesn't just neatly return to where you started. Nope. It crashes, dropping significantly below your original baseline. You are suddenly running a severe neurological deficit. And honestly, the higher and longer the high you've been chasing, the lower and longer that painful crash is going to be. This below baseline drop creates a mental pain that feels intensely boring, incredibly uncomfortable, and just overwhelmingly sad. It brings on these severe, paralyzing symptoms, a complete lack of motivation where even getting off the couch feels literally impossible. You experience this deep tiredness that a nap just can't fix, an inability to focus on a single simple task, a low-level anxiety humming in your chest, intense feelings of hopelessness, and even trouble sleeping. Because your dopamine is totally depleted, you completely lose the ability to feel pleasure from previously enjoyable experiences. The entire world just feels gray. Essentially, you feel terrible and your brain is just screaming at you to go back to the bad habits so you can feel normal again. But wait, here is the massive cognitive reframe you need to internalize right now. This pain is actually a good thing. Seriously, this incredibly uncomfortable, agonizing emptiness isn't a failure, and it certainly isn't a sign that you're broken or fundamentally flawed. It is the active, physical sign that your dopamine levels are slowly starting to recover to their natural baseline. Your brain is just metaphorically sore, exactly like that muscle healing after a hard workout. Every minute you sit with that terrible feeling, you are literally getting stronger. Okay, section 3. Steps of the nothing rule, how to recover. Knowing that the pain is actually a sign of active healing, we can introduce the ultimate tool for overcoming it, the nothing rule. Here is exactly how it works. Step 1. Stop the dopamine spiking activity completely. Step 2. Do nothing and embrace the boring, sad feeling.
Step 3. Wait for your baseline levels to organically increase day by day. Let's really zero in on step 2 for a second. Instead of reaching for a slightly less stimulating app or trying to distract yourself with music, you literally just sit with the boredom. You let the crash happen. You stare at the wall if you have to. You allow your brain the absolute silence it needs to organically and naturally heal over time, rather than resetting the whole cycle by seeking out another quick fix.
Next up, Section 4, Building Healthier Alternatives, the Clean Slate. As you endure this necessary, kind of difficult process of doing absolutely nothing, a wonderful transformation slowly takes place. Everyday tasks will naturally start to feel pleasurable again. Day by day, as your baseline actively resets and climbs back up to a normal level, the color actually begins to return to your life. Previously boring things like getting an hour of deep work done, reading a physical book, or just chatting with friends over a coffee will naturally become deeply enjoyable. This gives you the perfect friction-free opportunity to build healthy alternative habits. When your baseline is healthy, turning to your old bad habits actually feels like an annoying distraction that gets in the way of a life that already feels satisfying on its own.
And finally, Section 5, the 10-minute trick, handling acute urges.
Look, we all know there are moments when the negative emotions, the intense boredom, and the visceral urge to relapse feel completely overwhelming, and the nothing rule alone just isn't cutting it. Your brain is demanding dopamine right now, and sheer willpower is fading fast. Well, in a moment of extreme stress like this, you can rely on a brilliant psychological trick picked up from the Diary of a CEO podcast. Just wait 10 minutes. When the urge hits and panic sets in, simply tell yourself, I will do the habit in 10 minutes. A massive source of uncomfortable feelings during a craving is pure uncertainty. You know, the intense pain of not knowing if or when you'll ever be able to relax again. The finality of I can't never do this again triggers immense anxiety. By deliberately scheduling a time slot to indulge just 10 minutes away, you completely eliminate that painful uncertainty. You give your panicked brain a comforting plan. This greatly reduces the immediate anxiety, lowering the emotional temperature just enough to let the acute urge subside. More often than not, when that 10 minutes is up, the overwhelming craving is past, and you can comfortably choose to keep going.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to really think about this. What uncomfortable feeling will you embrace today to rebuild your baseline? Take a moment to reflect on your own habits. Identify that one routine that leaves you feeling drained and empty. And the next time you try to stop and that familiar wave of boredom and sadness hits, remember that the discomfort you feel isn't failure. It is simply the beautiful, necessary pain of your mind getting stronger.